Good evening, everyone. We are about to get started. You can take a seat. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight. On behalf of Los Cien, Corazón Healdsburg, and La Familia Sana, welcome, and thank you for being here tonight. First, we want to thank our candidates for your willingness to show up, to engage, and be part of very important conversations. We also extend our gratitude to our partners who helped to thoughtfully draft the questions for this evening, and to our dedicated committee members who work behind the scenes from logistics to finalizing the program to make this forum possible. And thank you so much to all the community members, our nonprofits, our community leaders, and our elected officials for being here tonight. Tonight is about our community. We've come together to lift up questions that matter, questions that help us better understand where each of you stands, to our community, so our community can learn, reflect, and make informed decisions that align with our values. As nonprofit organizations, we do not endorse candidates. However, our work is deeply rooted in community, and because of that, we hope every candidate leaves here with a clear understanding of the importance of leaning into the unknown, of bringing community voices to the table, and of partnering with those most impacted when making decisions. As a future supervisor, you will face complex choices. Creating space to listen, to learn, and to lead with community, just as we are doing here tonight, is essential to that role. So thank you again for being here. And it is now my honor to hand it over to our moderator for the evening, Cristal Lopez.
Thank you, Marcy. Buenas tardes and welcome to tonight's district forum. Thank you for being here. I want to reiterate some of Marcy's words today, and I want to engage in this important conversation. Before we begin, I'd like to briefly go over the format and guidelines for today. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to each question, and everyone will have an equal opportunity to answer. My role this evening is to help us stay on time and ensure a smooth flow of the conversation. We have a timekeeper up in the front. Please refer to her for your time. And she will signal you when you have 1 minute remaining, 30 seconds remaining, and when your time is up. At that point, please finish your final sentence. We also have, very last minute, a Facebook Live happening right now on our Corazón page. So if you have any guests who could not be here today, please refer them to the Corazón Healdsburg Facebook page. They may engage in that way. We are not monitoring the comments on Facebook. I encourage each candidate to respond to the questions to the best of your abilities. Members of the public will also have the opportunity to submit questions using note cards, which are located in the back. Those will be collected by some staff members that will be going around throughout the forum. Time permitting, we will also ask as many questions as we have time for from the public, and we will always combine similar questions. So if you ask a similar question to someone else, we'll combine those questions. To our audience, we recognize that we all come from different perspectives and lived experiences. I ask that we lead with curiosity, listen openly, and help maintain a respectful and constructive dialogue throughout the evening. Thank you, and let's begin. We will be sharing microphones today. Todd and Melanie, you will share a mic, and then Tom, you and I will be sharing a mic together. To begin, we'll start with introductions. Each candidate will have up to 3 minutes for this question to share who you are, your background, and what led you to run for district supervisor. We'll start with Tom.
Why, thank you. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and I really do appreciate both Corazón Healdsburg, Los Cien, and La Familia Sana for hosting this, because this does not happen without time, energy, and effort. So I appreciate the 3 organizations putting that time, energy, and effort into that. So my name is Tom Schwedhelm, and I am a candidate for the 4th District Supervisor's race. I think your question, the first one was, what's your why? Why am I doing this? I have a passion for Sonoma County. I've been doing this for over 40 years, and I'll get into how I made up those 40 years. But also for me, I have a personal why. What's your why? Why do you do these things? And for me, I'm really committed to making a difference in the life of others, right? How did I demonstrate those things? Through 40 years of government service. And I'm really looking for the issues for this Sonoma County Supervisory District. You want someone who has proven leadership skills, has demonstrated that, and the appropriate experience to help lead this county through the challenging times we're about to receive. The second thing I think is really having a track record of getting things done. A lot of people can say things, but having a track record of getting things done, coupled with the third important component that I believe I possess, is having those personal connections and relationships to work together on any challenge that we have in our community. It's not about me, it's about us. That's a key thing. It's about us working together to get things done. My background, my career, I had 31 years at the Santa Rosa Police Department, where I retired as its chief of police. We had plenty of challenges and experience, including the internal organization that was divided when I became chief. I was the first chief that was promoted from within since 1935. It had been 74 years. I think we've righted that ship because the last 3 chiefs of police have been internal candidates, because it's no longer about different groups. It was about the community as a whole, and not some of the issues that were going with the in-house folks where they had their own issues. It's not about us. Let's get out of our way. It's about serving the community. Once I retired for 2 days, I was approached about running for city council. So I threw my hat in the ring, did a lot of campaigning, and I actually was elected to the San Jose City Council in 2014. I served a total of 8 years, 2 terms, and the experiences I had in the 5th largest city in the Bay Area, which Santa Rosa is, what did we have in 2017? We experienced the toughest fire. So it's not only dealing with the fire, but actually the rebuild. And in 2018, we had a significant event. I was elected by my peers as the mayor for my first 2 years of that second term. And what did we have? We had COVID. We had to change the way we operated. But how do we get through that? Working with other community members, we can do it together. Because the things that are happening up in Santa Rosa will be happening throughout the rest of the community. So that's the experience. That's the track record of getting things done. And those are the personal relationships that have led to the majority of the Board of Supervisors endorsing me. The majority of the Santa Rosa and Healdsburg City Council endorsed me. And city council members from throughout the county endorsed me, both currently on the board and previously on the board. I look forward to answering the questions throughout the rest of the evening, and thank you for your attendance.
Thank you.
Melanie?
Hi, good evening. I'm Melanie Bagby. Thank you so much for hosting us here today. It's so great to see an event like this in North County. I don't know about you, but when I look at the decisions that are being made at the Board of Supervisors and the general plan revision, I'm seeing a disconnect between where the voters of District 4 and honestly most of Sonoma County, where they are on the issues, and where the current board members are staking a position. And I've worked with 4 out of 5 of those individuals directly, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for them and the difficult decisions that they have to make. But what I've seen in the last year has made me realize that we need to make sure that we have a strong voice from North County representing our interests on the Board of Supervisors. When I got into this race, I never thought for a moment that a local supervisor candidate would really have to step up and take a position on a federal issue. But what we're seeing with ICE in Minnesota, where I personally have friends and family, there's still an occupied city. And I think a big concern we have in Sonoma County is we're wondering, when are we going to be next? And so I'm making my position on that very clear, is that we need to make sure that the Board of Supervisors is protecting Sonoma County residents from ICE. I also strongly supported Measure P when it was on the ballot in 2020, when I was on the ballot for re-election at Cloverdale City Council, where I served 2 terms. I will defend that voter-approved civilian oversight of law enforcement while supporting our officers, because I think that that's important to couple those 2 ideas. I also was mayor during crises in 2019 when we had fires and floods, and disaster response is at the top of my list of priorities. I also want to lead on the housing crisis, which we see, which is really an affordability crisis, which in Sonoma County is really a wage crisis and a wage fairness crisis. So I'm endorsed by Congressman Huffman, by a coalition of labor, environmental, and social justice advocates, Supervisor Hopkins, and multiple leaders throughout the region. And tonight I'm here telling you about my experience and asking you for your vote.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Lands. Thank you guys for hosting this event. This is amazing, especially to have a turnout like this with the weather that we're getting right now. So thank you all for being here and taking the time out to come listen to us. I was born and raised in Sonoma County, and I graduated from high school in Cloverdale in 1995. I still live here in Cloverdale and am the current vice mayor. I was the mayor of Cloverdale for the last 4 years and the vice mayor for 1 year before that. I'm married. I've been married for 23 years. I have 2 daughters, ages 19 and 21. One is in Utah going to college, and the other one is in Quantico, Virginia, because she just finished with her master's degree in law and has moved on to a new career. What got me into politics was when I took my daughter to her first day of kindergarten, and there's 39 children in a classroom with no assistance and no money and no supplies. And so I asked the question, what is wrong with this picture? And they said, we have nothing in our budget. So I found out our school is being taken over by the state. And so I took it upon myself to assess their budget and compare it to others, and I found that there was a lot of discrepancies. So I used my civil duty to come and speak as people do in our meetings for the 3 minutes. And when I was done, we held multiple town halls. We had people resign from the school district, and they appointed me to the school board. Within 8 years of my time on the school board, I was president for 3 to 4 of those with the clerk and the president position. And when I left, we'd remodeled every classroom for efficiency and technology. We'd built new classrooms. We had the smallest class sizes ever. And we had $3 million in the bank. From there, I went on to the city council. Within 3 months, they made me the vice mayor, and I was the mayor for the next 4 years. We've been deficit spending for most of the time before I got there, and we're predicted to have a $1.5 million deficit spending for this year. We are now $1.3 million in the black. I'm a firm believer in living within your means and spending taxpayer money wisely. I'm a firm believer in public safety and making sure that everybody is protected with vegetation management and all of your resilience that is necessary to keep you safe. I also worry about affordability, and I have a lot of new plans to help besides just using government money to build low-income housing. There's a lot of ways that can help our communities do better. Now, lastly is the water supply. As the Potter Valley project is going on, there's a lot of misinformation. I want to make sure that our region is safe with water for the generations to come. So if you have questions, I have a website. You can come contact me at any time. I will always come meet with you. And thank you for having me on this event.
Thank you all. I have a note here to make a comment about interpretation, so I'm going to do that in Spanish now. Si usted necesita interpretación en español, tenemos dispositivos atrás a favor de contactar a uno de los personales que está atrás y le pueden brindar un dispositivo. For the next series of questions, you'll have 2 minutes to answer these. And for this question, Melanie, you will get us started. Many parts of District 4 are unincorporated, meaning they fall outside of city boundaries. As the district continues to grow in these areas, residents often don't have the same access to city safety nets like emergency services, healthcare programs, and community resources that people in incorporated areas rely on. How would you ensure that there is equity and inclusion for everyone in the district?
Thanks for the question. Well, first of all, I understand this pretty deeply. I grew up in what in Sonoma County, depending on how you count it, is the largest unincorporated population area in Northfield, Wickiup. And I remember many times when we had issues regarding Marquest the stream, or we had an issue with the paving on Wickiup Drive, or if we had a law enforcement issue, it was the county sheriff. So it's something that is vitally important to understand, and it's actually an advantage as having been a city council member in a small city where we had our jurisdiction and then we had the county sheriff's jurisdiction. So it was something that you had to be familiar with and understand very thoroughly. Because so many of our residents reside in the unincorporated area and they're reliant on law enforcement from the sheriff's department, it's even more important that we have good implementation of Measure P and civilian oversight of law enforcement. That's going to be extremely important. Also, just understanding that Permit Sonoma is where you go to get your building permits, and they are in charge of the zoning. So one of the key areas that I want to work on in Sonoma County is streamlining and updating the processes in Permit Sonoma. And one of the things that the Board of Supervisors can do is give David Ewan, our new CEO, the bandwidth and the support that he needs to prioritize improving operations in Permit Sonoma and throughout county departments.
Todd?
Can I ask you to read that question one more time so I make sure that?
Of course.
Thank you.
Many parts of District 4 are unincorporated, meaning they fall outside of city boundaries. As the district continues to grow in these areas, residents often don't have the same access to city safety nets, like emergency services, healthcare programs, and community resources that people in unincorporated areas rely on. How would you ensure that there is equity and inclusion for everyone in the district?
Thank you. There is nowhere further away from emergency services and healthcare programs in Cloverdale. You can get about 45 minutes out into the hills before you even get into Cloverdale, and then it's another 30-minute drive to a hospital. We have one ambulance, so I know what it's like to have a hard time being safe. 8 years ago, when I was on the school board, we didn't have any nurses at our school because the budget was low and everything was going on with the bad times in our district. And so I started working with Alexander Valley Healthcare. And at that point, they were a small but mighty group, and they've grown and they've outgrown several buildings in Cloverdale. And I worked very hard with them over the last 8 years to make sure that they could build their urgent care center in Cloverdale. It takes tens of millions of dollars to make this happen, and in a little place like that, rural healthcare is very, very rare. But they are breaking ground this year because of the hard work that we have put in. Everyone deserves the healthcare that they need. We have a 58% 55 and over population in Cloverdale, and Sonoma County is looking at 30% in 2030 over the age of 65. We have to have access that is closer than Santa Rosa. Rural healthcare is an absolute necessity for unincorporated and incorporated areas like Cloverdale where you don't have it. I work on the master plan on aging with the county. I work with our senior center. We worked on different transportation possibilities like circuit riders. I know that I worked with Familia Sana. We were working on them through the master plan on aging. And we're also working with different groups to make sure that every single person has access to medical, healthcare, and emergency services as needed.
Thank you. For me, the key here is taking a regional approach to all these issues that you were mentioning in the question there. And I talked about actually a track record of getting things done. Let me just use my experience with homelessness, which touches a lot of the different areas that you talk about in these smaller communities. When I first got on it with the Santa Rosa Police Department, the continuum of care who distributes those dollars throughout the community, they're all nonprofits. There was no regional representation. By the time I left 8 years later, North County had a representative, because what the impacts of that challenge, homelessness in North County, is different than it is in Santa Rosa. Same thing, Sonoma Valley has got a representative, as does West County, they have their representative, as does South County. So it's that regional approach to get the same level of services, regardless of whether you live in the county seat, Santa Rosa, or upper northernmost city, Cloverdale. So we need to work together on that. The county is doing some programs like Open Doors. They also have some mobile clinics where they're actually going to where the people are. At the start of our campaign, one of the first things we wanted to do, we had community meetings, not just in Santa Rosa. Our campaign has had 5 community meetings, one in Cloverdale, one in Geyserville, Healdsburg, Mark West area. We had to hear the people. What are the needs in each of these communities? Because they are different. It is going to be the big challenge for the county with some pending state and federal cuts. How do we get to all the different areas? We need to work together to collaborate on some of those issues, including, Todd had mentioned Master Plan on Aging. Working with that group in Cloverdale, transportation and basic needs are the two biggest focus areas. Do we have an easy answer for the transportation issues in Cloverdale? Not yet, but I tell you what's happening. We're working together. There are some things we can learn from other cities, like the paratransit system in Santa Rosa. Could we bring something like that up into Cloverdale and North County? Are there other nonprofits that are doing the same services that we don't have to duplicate, but we can enhance? So it's got to be that regional approach.
Thank you. We're great on time. If you have any questions, make sure you're grabbing note cards from the back so we can continue asking questions after the set questions we have today. This next question is for you, Todd. Do you view supporting the Latino and immigrant community as central to Sonoma County's economic future or as a separate social issue? And how will that belief show up in your budget and policy priorities?
This is very simple. They're not central to it. They're the backbone of it. We have to look beyond what you see in this room. Look at your school districts right now. Cloverdale is 64% English as a second language. Immigration and immigrants are our backbone and what our future is to be here in Sonoma County. Every job, every business that goes on here, they are going to be supported by the immigrant population. I see our area was ag for hundreds of years, and it is starting to take a back seat right now, and we need to focus on more ag. As you see, your winery is starting to dwindle a little bit and suffer. We need to start thinking about the future of that so that we can make sure that we have the jobs and the economy to keep everyone here and going solid. One of the issues that we've always talked about is, actually over the past year, and I also talked about it in 2016 when President Trump had his first term, was people feeling safe going to their job sites. And with the ICE issues going on right now, people are having the same feelings, and we need to make sure that we don't have that. We need to make sure that everyone feels safe when they go outside their house or to their jobs. And so we need to make sure that we have some type of worker program to make sure that everyone is safe while we're working on immigration reform.
So for me, the question was the Latino and immigrant community is central to Sonoma County's economic future. I believe the Latino and immigrant community is the driver of the future of the economy. And that's, I think, what more and more of the Board of Supervisors are starting to understand. When you hear stories from Dr. Robert Eiler from Sonoma State where he talks about the economy, that's what the driver is. And that economic engine drives a lot of other fields, whether it be tourism, the ag industry, healthcare. It's something we need to prioritize. The challenge is, what's that look like in our budget? Sonoma County's budget is probably about $2.68 billion, right? Pass through for the county budget that comes from the state and the feds is right around $900 million. That's what they were anticipating last year. But with some of the impact with the current administration, it's going to be so much less. So I can't sit here, none of us can sit here and say, here's how we're going to address those impacts, because we don't know what that dollar is. But what my strategy is, we need to do it together and talk about what are those drivers that we want to see? What are the impacts of the budget decisions that the county is going to be taking when we have these state and federal impacts? It's very disturbing to me with the impacts that it potentially can have, because a lot of it are those safety net services, right? Which also then goes into the housing need, the additional needs that we have in housing. If we lose some of the state subsidies for some of the affordable housing, which again helps drive our economy, that is going to have a big impact on us also. Right? The key is going to be working together and not stay in our silos and say, this is not going to happen here. We need to work together to get those results that we all want to see.
Yeah, I think that it's obvious that all of us here strongly believe that there is no separate community. We're one community. And we have to recognize the importance of immigrants and folks who have been here for generations and their cultural contributions to Sonoma County. We would not be who we are, and we would not be successful, and we would not have the sense of family that we have in this county without all of our communities. One of the things that I really want to be able to focus on as county supervisor is working in partnership with so many of the regional and local organizations like La Familia Sana, like Los Cien, but also working with our API groups, and also, working with the richness of the cultural heritages that we have within Sonoma County. Immigrants are the backbone of our economy. They are where small business starts, and they are where families and how families flourish. So for me, especially as a District 4 representative, I would make sure that I have very strong and continue the very strong relationships that I have with the nonprofit organizations that have the cultural capacity and the cultural fluency to make sure that all people are reached out to and represented and that their needs are met.
Thank you. This next question is for you, Tom, and continuing this conversation. There's ongoing debate in Sonoma County about cooperation between the Sheriff's Office and ICE, and calls from the community for a stronger non-collaboration policy. What is your position on this issue, and what authority would you use as supervisor to address it?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And for me, the whole idea with ICE, it's all about community safety. What's going to make our community safer? And quite frankly, what I have seen, what ICE has done in other communities, I want no part of it, because they would not make Sonoma County any safer. You see their tactics and techniques in other parts of the nation. And for me, coming from law enforcement, it's very disappointing because it has ICE, but bigger words, oftentimes it has police. That's not the way we do things here, right? Your local sheriff's office and every police department here is committed to making those communities safer. They do it by hiring the right people, giving the right training, and the policies and procedures, and holding them accountable. That's not what is happening with ICE. So I'm not in favor at all of ICE coming here, and anything I can do as a supervisor to prevent them from doing that. Because the second part of the question is specifically about the sheriff's office cooperating. Now there's a law called SB 54, that's state law, that states here's when a county or jurisdiction may communicate with ICE in the state of California. And that's if you have someone who's been convicted of a serious or violent felony. Upon their release from the Sonoma County Jail, they can notify ICE that this person is about to be released into the community. And for me, I'm in support of what Sheriff Ingram is doing on those serious and violent felons. Yes, it's going to make our community safer. And I'll use the example of someone who is let's say a registered sex offender. So part of the teams that I supervised at SRPD was sex crime, family violence, and we monitored the sex offenders. That's a lifetime registration. So if someone's from another country, is here illegally, right, then gets arrested here, I don't want that person back in our community, in our neighborhoods, because even though they may have done their time in that country, it's a lifetime, because you want local law enforcement to be able to track that person. And if we have an opportunity to have that person removed from our community, I think we should take it. And that's the intent behind SB 54. It's about what's going to make our community safer. And that very limited communication between the sheriff and ICE, I would be supportive of.
Melanie?
Yeah, I'm in favor of non-cooperation with ICE, except in an instance where there is a signed order from a judge, and that is legal requirement right now. That I think it's also important as leaders on this that we make it very clear that to the community that we do not support cooperation with ICE. We should take every effort that we can to make sure that they are not operating on county property, and we are not colluding with them, because we have to stand with our community, with our immigrant brothers and sisters, and let them know that we are going to do everything that we can to protect them.
When I was a deputy, I spent a lot of time working night shift in Roseland. And you spent a lot of time going to houses of immigrants. And the first thing you would always notice is how uncomfortable or nervous or scared they were. My partners and I always made sure the first thing we did was make them feel safe. Whether it was through a law enforcement action or just words, calming the situation, trying to make them understand that we're not there to ask questions about status, legal or illegal, undocumented or documented, whatever the words were back then. That was not part of the issue. We always made sure that people knew they were human first, and that's how we truly felt. For 20 years, I've been wishing our federal government would do the right thing and solve the immigration reform issues, because that's truly where this problem stems from. Without immigration reform, they create the division between the parties. I'm truly a nonpartisan. I have thoughts on both sides of the pendulum here. But one thing I will tell you, ICE has been reckless. I don't like what I see on TV. I don't like what I see them doing in Minnesota and other places. But what I also like is a safe community. And I want to make sure that the people that are the bad actors are not released back into our society to create more issues on our good people. I want to make sure that everyone that is a good person is taken care of and protected in their community, by their law enforcement, by anybody that's involved, by your county supervisors. I believe the sheriff needs to follow state law, and that is the cooperation that they have. And beyond that, we should not do anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. If you're coming up with questions, please raise your hand so someone from the Los Cien team can stop by and grab those from you. Thank you. Jumping into health, community health data has shown that the top health needs of northern Sonoma County are housing, mental health, aging issues, access to healthcare, and racism and discrimination. How will you use your position to turn the dial on these issues, and who would you partner with to do so? And this is for you.
That's a lot of policy areas. And one of the biggest issues influencing access to healthcare, access to affordable housing, is making sure that folks are paid a living wage. We have county employees who are our home healthcare workers who are getting paid about $20 an hour. A living wage in Sonoma County is $36 an hour. We can start by setting an example as a county by making sure that all of our county employees are getting paid a living wage. That is really the key to turning the corner on making sure that housing is affordable for folks, because we're not going to be able to build our way out of the housing crisis. It's going to have to be a combination of making sure that wages go up while we are also build housing. And that is really what is going to help us turn the corner and do it quickly. As far as this laundry list of policy areas, I'll just comment that regarding mental health, we are fortunate in that we will be able to fill the gap with some of the loss of funding that we're going to see with Measure O, and the strategy on that, we're really going to have to wait until the integrated plan from the Behavioral Health Department is put out, and then we'll be able to make some more solid decisions on where we need to conceive Measure O funding applied. But that's something that really is going to need the participation and comment by all of you, members of the public, to see how we can move forward on that. As far as access to healthcare and racism and discrimination, you know, the bitter irony is that so often our healthcare workers come from those very the very places, you know, from the communities of color, and we need to make sure that we are, and that is my time, and I would love to talk more about it at a later time. That's a huge issue, and I would love to talk with you more about it.
Thank you. Todd?
With this laundry list, I'm going to try to pick a couple that I haven't talked about yet. The first one is going to be housing. I love seeing our affordable housing units going up, the infill housing going on, because that helps lower prices and give more opportunity. But there's more to it than that. We can hit the median income people as well with efficient housing supply. Our permit process that we have right now costs a six-figure number easily per house built by the time you're done, because it takes so long for the permitting process and the inspection process and things that go on and all the different little sign-offs that you have to have at the end. As a general contractor, I know this because it's what I do for a living. And a house that should be done in 9 months is taking 2 years because of different people not working together, not working collaboratively at our county level. And that is one of my number one priorities that I have that I want to work on when I get into the supervisor seat. The next thing I want to talk about is mental health. We've done a good job in Sonoma County working on homelessness, but what they haven't done is worked on the mental health portion of the homelessness. The people that have severe mental health can't get into the housing that is needed for them and get stabilized to make themselves better for their own lives. They're denied housing because of their mental health issues or whatever they have, or whatever drugs they're using, whatever alcohol they're on. And so if you don't have a plan in place to give them an opportunity to be stabilized, they'll never work for them. The county has these plans. The courthouse has something called a FACT program. The probation department has ways to do this. The Measure O money needs to be spent efficiently and used properly and not just passed out to 9,000 different people to go out and meet people but not provide any results. If you look at my homeless numbers in Cloverdale, we're at what I call a functional zero. We're down to the last few people, and I worked very hard to get them all housing to make sure that they are stabilized and safe as they do themselves in their mental health.
Thank you.
Not to repeat a lot of these issues here, because these are all huge issues that deserve their response to their own question. But again, let me just start with housing. Big thing for me is like, we need to do things together, not do it to it. Coming from the city of Santa Rosa, I have felt at times that the county is telling us, here's how you're going to do it, versus being together and doing it with us, right? And so for me, when it comes to the housing, there's this thing called the housing element of our general plan. It's 80 pages long, right? If you want some exciting reading, it's right there for you. But a lot of those solutions are in there. But what's missing? The metrics for success on those. We need to do A, B, C, and D. That all sounds great. Literally, it's 80 pages. A lot of good information there. But that's the roadmap to address some of these issues throughout Sonoma County. But they don't have metrics to hold people accountable for it. So that's what I am interested in with the housing. And when it comes to mental health, same thing. It's a collaborative approach. We have several different service providers. NAMI, which I think we have a representative here, Bucklew, working with those organizations to ask them, how can the county assist you and us in making a difference with the lives of the people having some mental health or behavioral health challenges? I also like doing my own research, and I got this from talking to some doctors, ER doctors, who are dealing with folks with mental health and behavioral health problems in the acute medical facilities. They talk about this program called Be Well in Orange County, where it removes, it's similar to what we've done in Santa Rosa with the in-response team, where you move the cops away from it. Let's have mental health professionals respond versus a badge and a gun, right? It takes resources, but down in Orange County, it works. It works. Different cities actually collaborate to it, and it removes the people so they don't have to go to Memorial Hospital or Sutter Hospital, but a facility just to do the medical clearance to get them the help that they need. So they're not sitting in the ER that's not designed for the challenges that they're facing.
Thank you. Moving on to housing, which some of you have already touched on. Housing is often listed as a top priority here in Sonoma County. How would you describe the greatest set of challenges facing housing production? For instance, are you prepared to make tough budgetary decisions consistent with that priority? If you have already held office, can you provide an example?
Well, now that I answered this question on the last question, I'll go through just a little bit, touch on it first. Like I said, permit department needs to be restructured. It needs better top-down leadership to make it efficient, to make housing more affordable. It really will work. The Regional Housing Necessities Assessment, the RHNA, they call it, it's a state-run assessment that tells you how many houses of low, median, and high income values that you have to build in your area. And Cloverdale is one of the only places that has hit, one of the only places in the state that has hit their low income necessities. We have done very well making sure that housing is affordable in our area. We work hard to make sure there was affordable houses for everyone, and I will continue to do so as a county supervisor. They asked for an example of what I've done since I am currently in politics. We did rent control in Cloverdale. Our mobile home parks, the owners came to City Hall, we had meetings and went over different ways to do rent control, different ideas that they had. And I couldn't believe it. When we were done, everyone was happy, whether it was the tenants or it was the owners. They were all very happy in Cloverdale at what the outcome was. And I think we have the strictest rent control in the county. It's all about collaboration. It's all about finding ways to work together and making sure that the necessities are there for everyone. And I will continue to do so at the county level.
So for me with the housing, it's a challenge. Part of the question was greatest set of challenges. Quite frankly, NIMBYism. Everyone I hear says they want to have housing, but as long as it's not affecting me personally, right? Got to get over that. Now the state has passed a lot of different laws to try to incentivize housing. One example being SB 10, which would increase the density of different units. But yet I don't know of any jurisdictions in the state of California that have adopted SB 10 to encourage that housing. I'm willing to have that conversation. Same thing with some of the other legislations that's come down from the state, SB 330, where you have 5 meetings to get the project through. If you standardize some of those, like what we did in Santa Rosa, where you combine both your design review and your planning commission, combine some, so you're reducing or removing some of that bureaucracy, that can lead to faster housing, because time is one of the biggest barriers for developers, right? One of the things that we specifically did in Santa Rosa, there's a cannery project that's right along the smart tracks by the creek. That was 30 years in its development, but it finally got built while I was on council, because myself and the colleagues, when we had some one-time money, we were able to find those last couple $1 million to get the project finished, right? It's an affordable housing complex in downtown Santa Rosa. The other thing that the city of Santa Rosa, in partnership with the county, did, we created the Renewal Enterprise District. We took, each jurisdiction took $10 million from the PG&E settlement funds to put them into the Red Housing Funds, which is a bridge loan so that these projects that can't make it to the finish line, they could borrow those dollars to get the property built, and then eventually, once they're housed, pay that back, so it continues to fund additional housing within Sonoma County, focusing on city-centric development and infill development.
Yeah, there are a lot of factors that are involved at both the city level and the county level, but one of the things that county supervisors can do is just commit to, when we are required to meet our RENA numbers, that we partner with cities so we make sure that additional development is actually happening in our city centers, where we have transportation and where we have the infrastructure to support the kind of housing that we want to see. It's always been tough in Sonoma County. My parents were real estate developers, and I've been riding around in a car looking at properties since I was a little kid. Real estate has always been expensive. That's not new to us. I think we're ahead. Unfortunately, it's something that we excel in Sonoma County. But property prices, cost of materials. But now what we're also seeing is so much of our immigrant workforce, which is the key to our construction workforce, they feel that they are under siege. So we have multiple factors that we need to understand and address. One of the things that the county can definitely do is, work on land trusts, making sure that property is available for development, work with our partners in land trust, and then also, streamlining and supporting Permit Sonoma. That is been a goal for decades, as long as I can remember. It's not very sexy, it's not very fun, but it is something that definitely needs to happen. So, I am committed to making sure that we have the housing that we need, or the workforce housing we need for workforce families, but we need to make sure that we are concentrating it in our city centers, and the county can do a lot to partner with the cities to make that happen.
Thank you. This is our final question of the prepared questions that we have, and then we'll open it up for public questions. So if you haven't gotten a chance to ask your question, please grab a card from the back, and Herman from Los Cien will be walking around collecting those. So our final question is, during emergencies, breakdowns in communication can quickly lead to confusion and fear, especially among seniors in non-English speaking communities. How would you strengthen coordination and ensure timely, real-time communication between the county, cities, nonprofits, and residents?
So having experienced in 2017 the Tubbs fire, we learned so much from that experience. And then unfortunately we had another 3 years of continued emergencies. And I think we have learned from those. And the big thing is public education. And today is like a great example. We don't need to be talking about emergencies and communications in the middle of fire season. Now is the time to do it. And it's that shared responsibility. So having talked to fire chiefs throughout Sonoma County, the fire services in the municipalities are much better prepared to actually evacuate areas. Even the camera systems that we now have. Earlier this week, I was out at Calpine where they have some cameras for the entire county. That's accessible to everyone here. You could take a look at the cameras to see what fires may be there, but it's the personal responsibility, and that's where the education has got to come in. Now is the time to do the planning. Do you have your go bag? Have you identified your escape routes, and not just one escape routes? I know I live in Coffee Park. I know my way around there, but we were in gridlock, and also use the example out in Oakmont, the senior community in Santa Rosa. Evacuation routes. Well, what the fire department has done, they've got the communication down now. There's 6,500 or 4,500 people living out there, so they'll stagger the responses. Now, we still get complaints from some residents. I was in bumper-to-bumper traffic. It took me forever to get out of Oakmont. Yeah, but you were able to get out. We planned for that. It's all about that education. And the benefits of Measure C that the voters of Sonoma County passed, the communication amongst fire service has been so improved, because those are some of the challenges. How do we get word to everyone? We need to take responsibility for us and our neighbors. I know what we did with our seniors who were neighbors next to us, made sure that they got out, take that neighborhood responsibility and make sure your organization has those communications there, because there are some dead spots in this county, right? So regardless of what you do, there are going to be some places that communication is a challenge. Know that ahead of time, and what can you do as a person, as a neighborhood, to mitigate that, and then share that knowledge and understanding with others in your neighborhood.
Yeah, this is such an important question to talk about fire, especially on a rainy day, because nobody wants to think about it until they absolutely have to. But what I found is that relationships between the county employees and the leaders in our cities and our nonprofits that have the reach into communities are absolutely essential. We reach people by going through Nuestra Comunidad. We reach people by working with La Familia Sana. We reach people through Corazón. We have to make sure that everybody in this community knows that they need to be prepared, because as we found out from listening to the 911 calls, there is nobody maybe coming to rescue you and help you. You've got to help yourself, and you've got to help your neighbors. You've got to make sure that you know your neighbors. That's why community outreach and creating that cohesiveness and those relationships and knowing your neighbors is just so very important. But as supervisor, I would make sure that I would help create the systems that are going to create those relationships, continue to fund our preparedness hubs that are being stood up in each of our communities, and making sure that those relationships between government and leaders and our nonprofits in our communities are strong, so that when we need to reach each other at 3 o'clock in the morning, which is unfortunately, that's usually when these things happen, we've got the trust and the relationships and the infrastructure built so that we're ready to go.
I've helped rescue and recover in several fires that we've had in our area since 2015, whether it was Lake County or Sonoma County. I've gone out on tractors and helped cut roads. I've created fire breaks to save people's ranches. And so I know what it's like to have to be in the middle of the mess, in the belly of the beast, as some people call it. When Cloverdale had the fire coming towards us, we didn't know this until it was too late. The supervisors of our senior housing left the facilities and left all of the residents in there on their own. You have people that can't walk, people in wheelchairs, they're on second floors, people with no transportation, no way of communication, no power. And they all said, we are here to die. They knew this is how they was going to go out. I took it upon myself at that point to say this will never, ever happen again in Cloverdale. We created programs called Resilient Cloverdale and Clove Ready. These are programs that not only teach you how to be resilient to fire, but how to get out safely. We broke down Cloverdale into zones. We use Nixle. We have a radio system that we installed up on the hills around Cloverdale. We use GRMS radios so that you're not reliant on cell and power and things along those lines. And we can communicate with people from Cloverdale all the way into San Francisco and all the way out to the coast. I worked with the fire departments to get grant funding to create a fire break all the way around Geyserville and Cloverdale. There is a racetrack that goes around the majority of that area that we have done over the past few years to make sure that there is some type of break for our firemen, so when the fire does happen again, we are prepared. We hired people out of San Francisco that this is what they do for a living. They spent decades focusing on how to evacuate San Francisco for emergencies. They say we're one of the safest places in California, in Cloverdale. I want to make our county say that.
Thank you. With this, we conclude the prepared questions we had for today. I want to thank our partners again for developing those questions. We will now open the floor to questions from the public. As a reminder, we ask that questions be respectful and directed to all three candidates. And I have a few here already. We'll start with you, Melanie. Who are some of the key people supporting your campaign?
I'm endorsed by Congressman Huffman and Supervisor Linda Hopkins. I've received the endorsement of the California Democratic Party, the Sonoma County Democratic Party, Sonoma County Conservation Action. Let's see, I brought a cheat sheet. I ask forgiveness of the people who I didn't get right off the top of my head. Coalition for a Better Sonoma County, Sierra Club, SEIU Local 1021, SEIU 1501, Cloverdale Indivisible, and I'm very proud to have been endorsed by the mayor of Healdsburg. So I don't think Chris Harrod's here tonight. That council member Ariel Kelly, council member Caroline Banuelos from Santa Rosa, council member Victoria Fleming from Santa Rosa, Windsor Town Council member J.B. Leap, and my friends to the north in Mendocino County, Supervisor Momo Hearn and Supervisor John Hashak, as well as Petaluma Council member Brian Barnacle, Janice Cater Thompson, council member from Aurora Park, Samantha Rodriguez, council member and mayor in Sebastopol, Stephen Zolman, and Phil Carter, also on the Sebastopol City Council, and Nisa Henton on Sebastopol City Council, Sandra Lowe from the Sonoma City Council, Joanna Pond, who's a trustee from our Petaluma Schools and a candidate for District 2 supervisor. So I have a wide range of the current elected officials. If you want a complete list, that's located at my website, melaniebagby.com/endorsements.
I'll make this very quick. I have some from Lake County supervisors, Mendocino County supervisors, several council members from across the county, different public safety and first responders throughout our county. But number one to me is the people. Some people are getting the endorsements, but I have the people that are their members. That is why I have the Farm Bureau. I did not get the Farm Bureau endorsement at first, but their members went to their board and said they wanted to endorse Todd. I do not have the Deputy Sheriff's Association, but I've given them 24 signs. And so I continue to work hard to get the people's vote. It's not about the endorsements on the sheet. It's about the people voting for the right person, because change is scary. And if all the electeds don't want me, it means that I'm probably the right person because they're scared of what I'm going to bring in.
So key supporters, I'd be remiss if I didn't say the most important one is my wife. She supports because without her, she went through 31 years of law enforcement with me, and it's a lot. And then 8 years on city council. It's important to have that support at home. So she's my biggest supporter. From the political perspective, Congressman Mike Thompson's endorsed me. Our state assembly member, Chris Rogers, endorsed me. And then working my way down, 2 members of the Cloverdale City Council are endorsing me. The majority of the Healdsburg City Council, Vice Mayor Tanya Potter from Windsor is endorsing me. And then Santa Rosa, the mayor, the vice mayor, and 2 other council members from Santa Rosa are endorsing me. I also have the endorsement of 4 of the 5 supervisors. I think I have the support of the 5th. Mr. Corsi is choosing not to do an endorsement until after the primary, but I know Chris and I worked well together on the Santa Rosa City Council. Additionally, I've got the Teamsters endorsement. I've got the Professional Firefighters of Sonoma County Local 1401 endorsing me. The sheriff has endorsed me. The district attorney has endorsed me. Deputy Sheriff's Association has endorsed me. The Santa Rosa POA is also endorsing me. We also have the Engineering Contractors Association, North Bay Builders Exchange, a variety of different broad-based support throughout Sonoma County. And that's the key, it's that broad-based support, because I think that's how you get things done. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's having those personal connections, relations. The reason I have a lot of endorsements, I believe, is that I've had a working relationship with many of the people. It wasn't the first time they ever talked to me. We have a track record of getting things done, and they want to work with me to continue to make positive changes for Sonoma County.
Thank you. Herman, can you confirm that clock is working? It is.
Yes, my technology says it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Just want to confirm. We're ahead of schedule, so we'll have plenty of time for questions today. Okay, this next question is for you, Todd. How do candidates plan to support communities highlighted in the Portrait of Sonoma 2021 update and the agenda for action as being the most disinvested and experiencing the most health and economic inequalities?
I'm sorry, can you ask that one more time?
Yes.
Got a little time.
How do candidates plan to support communities highlighted in the Portrait of Sonoma 2021 update and the agenda for action as being the most disinvested and experiencing the most health and economic inequities?
This is going to be a difficult time right now. As you've seen, the federal government has cut a lot of funding for our area, and our county is going to be in a severe budget problem right now. So we have to focus on each other, we have to focus on community, and we have to find ways to work together. When we talk about rural healthcare, that is an absolute necessity. We need to start combining and collaborating so that we're not spending money from the top down, we're spending it from the bottom up.
So for me, the Portrait of Sonoma County is vital data points, right? It basically talked about where you live determines how long your life expectancy is and that quality of life. So I'll use a real application, how we used that. When I was either both with the police department and then as an elected, we have the Santa Rosa Violence Prevention Partnership in Santa Rosa. And it's just not city folks. We would have, again, it's a regional approach to that. And so we would take the, where the greatest needs are, right? And this was in violence prevention, violence reduction. And where would we put those programs? Not in the Bennett Valley areas where on the Portrait of Sonoma, life expectancy is greater there. We put it where it is needed. It was a guiding document where if we have these services, where do we put them? Let's put them where they're needed to try to move the needle in those areas. Let's use those metrics to try to improve these data points. In the review, how is it working? Are the programs serving the needs of those people in there? So for me, I would use the update for the Portrait of Sonoma County as a guiding principle that, as others have mentioned, we may not be having the resources that we've had in previous years, but what resources we do use, we need to be very strategic and use the Portrait of Sonoma County as a guiding document to invest in the areas that need it most.
Yeah, healthy communities versus less healthy communities, it's often because of the infrastructure and the resources that are available and the investment that is put into those communities. So much of that is often, is that a walkable community? Or do you have access to healthy food? Do you have access to a good grocery store? Those are the questions that, the planning questions that can inform how we're going to allocate some of these resources. We may be able to apply some new revenue sources, such as Measure O, to make sure that those needs are addressed in these areas. It could also be as simple as we need to improve transportation in those areas so folks have access to jobs and education and resources. So we might be able to look at a way that we could apply some of the funding from Go Sonoma and making sure that they are distributed to our communities that need investment. So that is a conversation that I would love to have, look at alternative resources, because that's probably what we're going to be doing when we see when we have the divestment from some of our federal sources and our state sources, we're going to have to be very creative in how we can use our local sources of funding to make sure that those communities are not left behind.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with you, Tom. Farm workers have been organizing and winning disaster pay, which includes compensation when you can't work because of climate disasters, as well as extra pay when you are working in hazardous climate conditions. Will you support policies for disaster pay for frontline workers?
To me, that's a great question, and understand the ramifications and impacts of that. So who's going to pay for it? What are those impacts going to be? If we want to develop a policy in Sonoma County for that very thing, should there be hazardous pay? And there's a variety of other workplace entitlements or enhancements that we could explore, but we need to do it together and not do it to any one group, right? Because it's really easy to spend someone else's money. Now, if the county had a pot of money and I knew we had the amount of funds to do just what this question is asking, absolutely, let's do it. But I don't think that exists. So who is going to pay for those things, and what are the impacts of those costs? That's where it's getting together and having those conversations with the people who are involved, so they're doing it with the key stakeholders and not to the key stakeholders.
Melanie? Of course. Farm workers have been organizing and winning disaster pay, which includes compensation when you can't work because of climate disasters, as well as extra pay when you're working in hazardous climate conditions. Will you support policies for disaster pay for frontline workers?
Yeah, absolutely. I will support that, and I'll make sure that the workers have access to the necessary PPE that they need as well. And this has to be a conversation that we have with the employers, because we understand it's an additional expense. But these folks are out there working in the fields, working hard for you. They need to be able to protect their health so that they can continue to provide for their families. So I would be interested in continuing work and conversation about this, but I'd absolutely support the policy.
The quick answer is yes, absolutely. I think what we need to do is we need to find a way to link it to the work passes that the county has approved to give out for the farm workers to go back in during these disasters. Because if you link it to that, that will give it an easy way to say you're justified that yes, you can get this, yes, you have to provide the PPE, yes, you get the disaster pay. On top of that, one of the other things that we focused on up in Cloverdale was finding ways to create jobs for the farm workers when they're not needed in the farms or in the vineyards. And that was one of the things we did along our riverbed, is we actually created a program that would hire immigrants to come out and do a cleanup of what's called a rundo. It's like a bamboo material in our riverbeds. And we would do that because what people don't understand is 1 acre of this invasive species of arundo will use up enough water to supply Healdsburg for a year. And so when farm workers didn't have work, we created a program through the county that will actually give them jobs to do this on their off time. So what's nice is not only would we focus on disaster pay when we have disasters and hook it to the work passes, but we make sure that they're employed when they don't have the work in the vineyards.
Thank you. Todd? The Census Department recently announced, did you go, Tom?
No.
Okay. The Census Department recently announced a decline in population in Sonoma County of 12,000 plus people. What are your specific plans to turn around the decline in population, which is an indicator of economic health and well-being for families?
Great. It's interesting when you start talking to employers and some of the union workers. We have union workers in Sonoma County who are traveling 4 and 5 hours, and they're actually building schools in other counties. And meanwhile, we're closing them in Sonoma County. So, one of the things that we need to do in Sonoma County that we haven't done for a long time is really kind of it's antithetical sometimes to the challenges that we're facing, or it seems impossible. We need to build some big projects here so that we can bring good union jobs and good family supporting jobs to Sonoma County, so that our talented workforce that we are graduating from our apprenticeship programs actually, stay here and raise families here in Cloverdale or in Healdsburg and in Geyserville and in Santa Rosa. So, what I'd like to do is continue to support big projects, making sure that SMART is completed all the way to Cloverdale. I really see SMART as being phase one of our transportation transformation in Sonoma County. We have a north-south access. We need to make sure that we are connecting all of our communities east and west to that central transportation north-south access. We also need to make sure that we're supporting the geozones up at the geysers. Sonoma Clean Power has currently approved 3 pilot projects so that we can create green energy jobs in Sonoma County and improve our innovation and our startups around energy in Sonoma County that will create jobs. And, thirdly, we need to make sure that we are creating great jobs in the county. We need to improve our capacity in our own workforce. We have 4,000 people who work for the county, and we need to make sure that there is a path for career development and that we're being able to retain and attract a good workforce that can serve our community so that we can, build our local economy and build local jobs here that have living wages that can support working families.
Focus has to be on affordability. If you can't make a living here that you can survive, then you can't be here. So we need to focus on affordability and jobs. One of the places I like to start is where I started my time. That was at the school board with CTE, Career Technical Education. You create the jobs from the kids from the ground up. That way when they get out, they have a lifelong skill that actually will make them money. You look at a lot of the things going on in our county, it's the most beautiful place on earth, if you ask me. But there's a lot of infrastructure issues because we're aging. So we need to focus on bringing in more jobs and using outside contractors for things like your roads and your infrastructure, your lighting, your technology, and things along those lines. So bringing in more of that brings in more union jobs, or brings in more jobs for people. The geozone, as Melanie talked about, I don't know if many of you know about that, but it's basically like Calpine. It supplies about 97% of your green energy up here on our hills, and no one really even sees it there. Well, they have a new style of doing it and a new idea, and the technology is phenomenal. And I want to see those jobs right here. I was actually talking to the guy that's been pushing it in Sacramento. I was talking to him this past week at one of our fundraisers, and he says it's going well, and I'm hoping in the next few years that creates hundreds of jobs for our area and creates all the power that we would need for our electrification. Another thing along with the SMART train is not just building it to Cloverdale, but creating different ways to make money off of it. We have a lot of lumber mills in Cloverdale. We have multiple counties that match up to us, and what we could create is some type of a hub. Whether it's for freight or people, you can create the hub that would come in and load up all your freight cars and things along those lines and create the jobs by having not only the trains there, but all the materials brought into Cloverdale to build around our area. There's lots of things like lumber that are in our area, but they all get taken out. We need to keep it here. We need to build more. We need to keep pushing with what we're doing and creating the jobs in our county.
It was interesting when I first heard that, like, we want more people, because most people I hear saying we don't want anyone else coming, just the people who are here. But the reality, and it's kind of this theme that I've been hearing throughout the night, it's about housing, right? So if we want to actually get the workforce here, what business is going to want to come here when they ask the question, where are my employees going to live, right? We need more housing. I think that's the first key here. But I am a believer, build it and they will come. Collaborating together. We've mentioned a couple of times the geothermal, the largest in the world, right? Calpine, taking that tour. Who was on board the same bus? The CTE Foundation. Because I don't think some of the kids who are in high school now know of the opportunities there. In talking to some of the managers out at Calpine, what are they worried about? They've got a total of 6 machinists. And they've all been there about 40 years because it's a great place to work. They have about a total of 300 employees there. They're not sure what are they going to do when those 6 people are going to retire, right? The nice part about it, on the same visit, we had representatives from our higher education, both the JC and Sonoma State. Both of those educational institutions are starting to realize we need to train people for jobs for Sonoma County, not for other parts of California. And so that collaboration, so now you have the higher education educators listening to what the workforce folks are saying. We need people that can fill these type of jobs, working collaboratively for it. But that bottom line, more than anything else, we need to have the housing there for the employees to come to Sonoma County. As our enrollments are declining, how do we keep the kids who are here staying here? We need to allow them, this is a place where you can actually live.
Thank you. Todd, who are your top 3 funders of your campaign?
Right now, Gallagher Developers probably are number 1. Number 2 would be probably the Jeff Peters family, and they grow olives in Sonoma County. And number 3 would probably be, at this point, probably Lawrence Amaturo. He owns a lot of your media, and he creates programs like Read on Sonoma, which is one of the best programs ever to happen in our 2nd through 6th grade reading programs in our school districts, because it has boosted our reading levels to above average when we were one of the bottom in the state.
Thank you.
So for me, for those of you that didn't know, the maximum contribution in Sonoma County is $3,800. So I have a few people, not as many as I'd like, who have donated that. 2 that first pop out is John Sawyer, former mayor of Santa Rosa. I worked with him for several years, and his partner Dan. They each contributed, and then Engineering Contractors Association, who actually help with a lot of the asphalt and whatnot throughout, paving of the roads in Sonoma County. They also do the maximum contribution.
I'm sure about the first 2, and I'd have to check up on the third one, but my donors are right now Rick Tice, North Bay Labor Council, and I believe the third is Diane Bartleson.
Thank you. I'm going to combine the next 2 questions. They're very similar, so I'll lead with the statistic. I'm not fact-checking any of these. It states, in 2020, county voters approved Proposition P by 66.7% of the vote. There's an implied effort to weaken the efficiency of Measure P. Describe your commitment to defend the will of the voters regarding Measure P.
So regarding Measure P, passed by the voters, I think that is an accurate quote. So I'm all for civilian oversight of law enforcement. The way it went about the Measure P itself, the supervisors at the time were told this could lead to some litigation, right? They chose to put it on the ballot anyway. It occurred. Where are we right now with it? We're in the middle of litigation, right? We're in the middle of litigation. So if you look at what is the mission statement for Ilero, which I'm 100% supportive of, the mission of Ilero is to improve the relationships between the sheriff's office and its community. Is that working right now? And I would argue, no, it's not. Haven't had conversations with some of the current board, because this has been a discussion, because this is costing the county in litigation on both the Ilero side and the sheriff's side a lot of money, because it's in the Board of Appeal, it's being appealed. So what some supervisors are thinking about, and this is what I'd be a proponent of, let's get all the key stakeholders together again. Let's do an ordinance that actually meets the legal requirements that everyone can support. Not taking the teeth out, but some of the issues that didn't occur in 2020 were the thing called meet and confer. Because whether we like it or not, some of the employees have their rights, right? So let's start this again, because I believe there's enough interest in all the community stakeholders together, and actually we can get this back in the intent that was meant to quicker than the appeals court can take it. Because we're out of control. Right now, we have the appeal court has rendered their decision. Well, that's appealable. Because what has also changed since then AB or SB 1185, which the state legislature passed, which that was 6 months after Measure P, which gave the authority for counties to create their own civilian oversight. There's a methodology for that. We need to do it so that it's not going to be tied up in litigation like the 5 years of the current Measure P is. I think there's enough interest there, and I think we in Sonoma County can get that done quicker than waiting for the appeals to expire.
Well, I would refer everyone to the Sunday Close to Home, written by Ernesto Olivares, who is a former Sonoma County Sheriff's Deputy and a former Santa Rosa City Council member. And he said that we need to sit down and iron this out and implement Measure P as it is. And I would have to stand with him on that statement. It is time for folks to realize that the voters of Sonoma County passed this for a reason, because we want citizen oversight of our sheriff's departments that is on par with what we have and our police departments. And it's time to sit back down at the table and work out an approach together and make this happen, because that's what the citizens and the voters of Sonoma County want, and that's how we need to move forward.
The goal of the IOLERO was to build trust and transparency with the public, and it has done just the opposite. As Tom stated, that was what they expected to happen, and here we sit with legal issues. I'm a supporter of Measure P. Even as a former deputy, I think it's a great thing to have civilian oversight from somebody that has watched the power given to an elected sheriff. I would love to see civilian oversight, but it needs to be run parallel with the sheriff's office and in collaboration. They can't be at odds with each other all the time. And that's where the problem comes in, is they don't have people that are there to work with them or work in parallel with them, even if they have different ideas, which is great. The IOLERO needs to be more diversified with their population and have them work more with the sheriff's office and the DA's office, so that it's not always butting heads. Law enforcement officers make decisions in split seconds that will be argued in a courtroom for the next 2 years by the smartest people in our state. It is a very difficult job to do, but it absolutely needs to have civilian oversight, maybe not at the speed that everyone would love to see it with our 9-second TikToks that we all think that we love so much these days. But I absolutely think that we need to make sure we do it and do it right, and that we get it right before we start having punitive issues. One last thing, sorry. One thing to remember, your sheriff is elected. If you don't agree with the way he's running the department, the voters can make that difference at the ballot box.
Thank you. There is about to be significant turnover in the Board of Supervisors given District 2 and District 4 elections. If you're elected to the Board of Supervisors, what do you see as priorities for change in the approach? What has not been effective in the current board's approach? Melanie.
Well, when I look at the measures that have been passed by Sonoma County voters, like Measure O, Measure I, Measure P, these are pretty progressive pieces of legislation. The voters of Sonoma County voted to tax themselves to create the SMART train, which is up for renewal this year. These are incredibly progressive policies, and I'm not seeing that reflected in some of the debates and some of the policies that are being put forth right now by our current supervisors. So, this is a really unprecedented time in Sonoma County. It's been decades since we've had 2 seats open, and it's really an opportunity for the voters of Sonoma County to vote for folks who are going to be receptive and listen to the voters' priorities and, really prioritize our issues, which is our environment, our clean water, our clean air, making sure that people have, an affordable place to live, that we address the affordability issue, that we, as we're facing difficult times in the wine industry, that we make sure that we renew our commitment to agriculture and to our local food systems. So it really is a chance for voters to see, a major change on the board, and I would like to be a part of that and represent you on the Board of Supervisors.
I don't think it's about coming in there and trying to change the whole dynamic. I think it's about adding to it. When you have 5 people that think the same all the time, you don't get diversity. On any of my boards or councils, I've never wanted 5 Todds, but I've never wanted 5 of the other people either. I want everyone to be represented in some way, because there's a lot of things that I will miss, but there's things that they will miss as well. With the federal government cutting funds for state and county, we're going to have to really tighten our belts and focus on wants and needs. And as a county supervisor, so I don't know what those wants and needs all are. I know some of them. I have a lot of ideas. But until you are in that office, or you have already won the election, you're not going to be privy to every single thing. But I have a lot of good ideas of what I want to do different and who I want to work with. I'm already currently working with a lot of the county supervisors on regional committees, and we have found ways to work together, whether our politics meet up or not. And that's a great thing, because, like I said, I will see things that they won't, and vice versa. So I look forward to working with them while we're there. I look forward to figuring out what our wants and needs are and making sure that we live within our means on our budget.
Yes, this is a huge time for the Board of Supervisors. If you look at just today, David Goen is the new county executive. Brand new, came from outside the county infrastructure. We just recently promoted from within Scott Orr, the newest Permit Sonoma director. And then county council also came from within. It's a new person. It's really an opportunity for the 5 supervisors, because there are going to be 2 new ones, whoever those 2 may be, but to get together and collaboratively give clear direction. And again, it's not about me or even the supervisors, it's about all of you. Again, one of the other reasons why, one of the first things we did on this campaign, let's do a listening community engagement series to hear what's important to the folks throughout the district, what's important throughout the districts. So every supervisor, if they take that understanding and their knowledge and understanding of their district, and then let's work collaboratively together. And we can't do everything for everyone, and it can't be just my district, but come up with some clear direction and clarify those expectations to David Goen, the new chief executive. And, as I mentioned earlier today, clear metrics on how we're going to define success. Because we have a 4,200 person workforce with the county. Can you imagine what it would be like if all 5 supervisors were on the same page, all agreeing and swim in the same direction, making these differences with the 4,200 employees going in that same direction? To me, that's what success may look like. And I think we're going to need to go in that direction, given these times of financial uncertainties and the impacts to the economy. But that's what the board needs to do. Work collaboratively, come with each of your district ideas, and then make decisions that are going to benefit the county as a whole.
Thank you. We were unable to finish the questions from the public today. We have run out of time. We are going to provide each candidate 2 minutes for closing remarks, and we will start with, was it Todd? Were you the last one?
I think I would.
Yeah.
I just really want to start out by saying thank you for all being here, listening to us, braving the rain, and taking the time to get to know us. These questions aren't easy for us, and these forums aren't easy for us, and I want to thank the 2 for being here. It's uncomfortable to sit in front of everyone and try to answer questions at the last second that you don't know what they're going to be, and I personally love it, because you get the real me. I've worked very hard over the last 14 years of public service in elected positions. I spent 11 years as a deputy, and I've focused my entire life on public service as a whole. I'm very successful in what I've done with budgets, whether it was pulling a school district out of being taken over by a state or a city out of the red. We've grown our economy, we've grown our businesses, we've learned to protect our community, and I make sure I was protecting our aging and our immigrant populations at the same time. I am nonpartisan. I don't care if you are undocumented, documented, what color your skin is, who you love, or what you believe. I'm here to represent you, and I hope you vote for me as your new county supervisor. There's information in the back with my name on it. My website is landsforsupervisor.com. My cell phone number is on my business cards. You can contact me and I will come meet you personally. I care about this job only because I care about our community. I'm not a politician. I'm here to work for you. Thank you.
First of all, I want to once again thank Los Cien, Familia Sana, and Corazón Healdsburg, because you are demonstrating one of my basic tenets. You're an active participant in your community. Everyone here, you're active participants in the community. That's what people used to ask me frequently when I was the chief of police, saying, what can we do to help? Just show up, pay attention. You're demonstrating that. And again, we're different. I'm not expecting everyone to know, everyone's going to support one of us or the other, right? Make your own independent decisions. And like for me, what I started this whole thing with tonight with is that you want someone with some leadership experience and skills that's been demonstrated and a track record of getting things done, combined with those relationships built over, in my case, 40 years, building those relationships for Sonoma County and paying it forward. I really look at that. Given my experiences, I'm paying it forward. We can make a difference in this community, right? It's not an accident that I have so many people endorsing the candidacy, because I've already worked with them to get things done. I'm not a barrier to progress, and I don't let perfection get in the way. One of the first books that I read when I got on the San Jose City Council, I encourage any of you to read it, it's On Being Wrong, because that can be a reality. In Santa Rosa, we had a 7-person council. I wasn't always in the majority, but I often have to realize, what if I'm wrong? How can I support the majority's group? I'm not going to be a barrier for that, because I don't have all the answers. But it's a history of that collaboration that actually we can move the needle. And I can assure you, there are some challenging times coming ahead. It's got to take people working together for the common good of Sonoma County. So if you're interested in having more information on me, my website's votetom.com. I'll be here all night, as long as the door's here, to talk about issues, because as Todd said, it is nice, and I do appreciate the format here where we had a little bit more time. We've had other panels where you get 60 seconds to answer a very detailed question, because it's this conversation where we're coming from, the core of who we are, I think is real important, and I appreciate the way this has been facilitated.
Well, speaking of making mistakes, when I do make a mistake, I call it out and admit it and apologize for it. I think I called Ernesto a sheriff, and he actually was at the Santa Rosa Police Department, so I apologize. I apologize, Ernesto, if you're watching tonight, that I got your resume wrong, but I really did appreciate that close to home piece, because it is the kind of leadership that we need, which is we need to, when we disagree with people, you need to come to the table and be able to talk respectfully, and work together. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and our hosts. This has been a wonderful opportunity to get to know all of you. Hopefully you know a little bit more of what I'm about. My campaign is really grassroots and fueled by the coalition in Sonoma County that really has a track record of getting things done that we can be so proud of. It's a coalition of labor, it's a coalition of environment and social justice activists. I'm very proud to be able to include the Sonoma County Latino PAC amongst my endorsers, as well as the North Bay Labor Council and the Sierra Club, and it reflects my how I work and what my values are. I am fully committed to working for you to bring transportation solutions, housing solutions, and wage justice to Sonoma County. That's who I am. That's the work that I did on two terms on council in Cloverdale. That is what inspired me to apply and work on the Cloverdale Planning Commission for 7 years. And it was central to the regional work that I did while on the SMART board at Sonoma Clean Power, at Russian River Watershed Association, and on Zero Waste Sonoma. That is central to my work. So I'm asking you to support my continued work for you And if you'd like to contact me, I'm at www.melaniebagby.com. Thanks for your time and attention tonight.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who came today. I know it was a rainy day, so thank you for being here. I also want to give a shout out to La Familia Sana. We have a representative here from La Familia Sana. Luis, I see you there. Herman, Los Cien team, Corazón Healdsburg, our incredible interpreter who's giving us language access on the spot today. And to Monte Alba for providing the delicious conchitas. Make sure to grab some on your way out. Thank you so much for being here. Continue to stay engaged. Vote, vote, vote. Thank you.
Could I get a picture of the three candidates with you real quick before you all head out? You're not. Thank you. I don't know how to start this. Holly, do you know how to pause this?